Did you know that it is possible to buy a house and simply never pay for it again? Don't worry, it's not a scam, it's not a miracle, and I'm not talking about inheritance or luck in the game. I'm talking about a real, legal, tested method, and one that I myself use to literally live for free, with the bank paying the bill. It sounds too good to be true, right? That's exactly what I thought when I first heard it. But today, I'm here, in my house, without having to pay a cent for financing, because I discovered a way to turn debt into an investment. And in this video, I'm going to show you how anyone, yes, anyone, can do the same. Without being rich, without having an impeccable reputation, and without having to wait decades. But first, let me tell you how it all started. I was renting, tired of throwing money away every month. You know how it is, right? That bill that never comes back, that feeling that you work just to keep the roof over your head. But buying a house? That seemed like a distant dream. But then I decided to do something that no one taught me at school. Not my parents, not my friends. I stopped looking at a house as a place to live and started seeing it as a business. And that changed everything. I want to show you the exact path I took, every detail, every choice. And the best part? How I did it without saving a penny. But first, I need you to understand something essential. The key to buying a house without paying for it is in the structure. It's not about saving every penny. It's not about earning more. It's about putting together a strategy where the house pays for itself. And I'm telling you right now, no, you don't need to buy a mansion. You don't even need to be an architect or an engineer. You just need to understand how to turn part of your house into an asset. You know that old saying, those who get married want a house? Well, I went further. I thought, those who get married want a house. That pays for itself. And that's how I started studying the real estate market from a different perspective. I started visiting houses, not thinking about where I would sleep, but where I could add an extra door, put up a wall, or create an independent space. The question that guided everything was simple. How can I divide this house in a smart way and make it generate income while I live in it? And that's how I found the perfect opportunity. It was an ordinary house, with a backyard and a side entrance. For most people, that means nothing. But for me, it was a hidden gold mine. I saw there an opportunity to make a small renovation, create a second housing unit, and rent it out. It's that simple. Now comes the part that almost no one believes. The rent I receive from this part of the house is practically equal to the installment of my financing. In other words, I live for free. And the property also increases in value over time. But it doesn't stop there. The most incredible thing is that, in addition to paying the installment of the financing, this type of property has an absurd appreciation. You are gaining on both sides, in the short term with the rent and in the long term with the appreciation. But for this to work, you need to follow some steps that I will detail now. First, strategic location. There is no point in buying a house at the end of the world thinking that someone will pay rent there. You need to target neighborhoods with good infrastructure, easy transportation, and mainly, rental demand. Second, the layout of the house. You have to take a look and think, how can I divide this up? It could be an annex, an outbuilding, a room with a separate entrance, or even a bedroom with a bathroom that you can turn into a studio. Third, financing. Many people are terrified of financing a house, but I tell you, financing is like leveraging a business. You use the bank's money to build up equity, and you can even have someone else pay that bill for you. I did exactly that. I bought the house, did some basic and intelligent renovations, nothing unnecessary, and advertised the separate part of the rent. Result? In less than a week, there were already people interested. Because people are desperate for affordable places to live. You know what's best? The tenant doesn't even have access to my part of the house. Privacy remains and the money comes in every month. Now you might be wondering, but won't that cause problems with the city hall? What if the tenant stops paying? What if the rent doesn't cover the entire installment? Yes, these are legitimate questions, but I have faced each one of them, and I will tell you how I resolved them. About the City Hall. You can rent a space inside your home without having to officially transform it into two properties, as long as the structure is not an irregular construction. But if you want to do everything 100% formally, it is possible to legalize it as a multifamily unit. There is a project for that. About the defaulting tenant. That is why I use platforms that guarantee payment, even if the tenant is late. And I always sign a contract with a guarantor or insurance bond. It is bureaucratic, but it is worth it. What about the rent covering the installment? You have to do the math beforehand. I only closed the financing after being sure that the rent from the extra part would cover at least 80% of the installment. If it covers 100%, even better. But the plan needs to be solid before signing any contract. And then, when you put all this together, you realize that what seemed impossible is completely feasible. Buying a house without paying is possible, but it requires intelligence, vision, and planning. I'm not a genius, nor an heir, nor a millionaire. I'm just someone who understood that you can use the rules of the game to your advantage. Now, if you want to take the next step, I recommend that you start looking at the properties in your city with this new perspective. Don't just look at the facade. Look at the income potential. And if you still don't have enough money for a down payment, there's a way. You can join a consortium, use your FGTS, or even finance with a minimum down payment. Some construction companies offer installments for the down payment, but the strategy remains the same. Buy with an eye on investment, and it doesn't stop there. If you repeat this one more time, you'll start to build real equity. Do you know what happens when you have two houses like this? You can live in one and rent out two parts. And then the money that comes in not only pays for both installments, but starts to have some left over. That's when you stop being just a resident and become an investor. And that, my friend, is what changes lives. Because most people work 30 years to pay for a property. I started paying and stopped in less than one. Of course, the property is still financed, but I'm not the one paying. It's the rent. And when the financing ends, everything that comes in goes straight into your pocket. That's the difference between buying a house and turning the house into an asset. And now I'm going to give you a bonus. If you liked this idea, there's an even more advanced model called house hacking. This is when you buy a property with several units, like a triplex or a house with studio apartments, and live in one of them. The others pay off your financing and still have some left over. This is the next step for those who want to go further. And this isn't just in the US, you know? There are a lot of people doing this in Brazil. The secret is to understand the game and stop thinking like a consumer and start thinking like an investor. While most people take out a loan and hope they can pay it off, you take out a loan with a plan to avoid paying it off. And from the outside, people think you were lucky. But you know, it wasn't luck. It was strategy. Now it's your turn. Are you going to keep paying rent and watch the money disappear every month? Or are you going to take the first step to transform your biggest expense into your biggest investment? Remember what I said at the beginning? Yes, it is possible to buy a house and not pay for it. And now you know how. If you like this video, send it to someone who needs to get out of rent or wants to invest. And if you want me to show you in practice how I did the renovation, how much I spent, how I found the tenant, and even the documents, comment below. I want the complete plan. Thanks for watching until the end. And remember, with strategy, even the bank works for you.